पेंडेमिक देखिए, पेंडेमिक जो भी हो उसको सीरियसली लेना चाहिए। इट डजंट मैटर कि वो कहाँ और किस तरह वो हिट करता है या अफेक्ट करता है, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम जितने हमारी टेक्नोलॉजी एडवांस हो चुकी है उसके बावजूद भी हम लोगों ने या हमारी लीडरशिप ने कोविड-19 को उस तरह सीरियस नहीं लिया जिस तरह लेना चाहिए था। अगर ये सीरियसली ले लेते तो मेरा ख्याल है कि ये इतना इतना लंबा अरसा जो अभी तकरीबन देखें ना, तकरीबन 10 माह हो गए हैं, एंड स्टिल द पीपल्स आर लिविंग इन हॉक्स, no matter whether it is a developed countries, underdeveloped or poor countries. I mean, no matter, everywhere the same is going, it's happening in Pakistan, same is happening in India, same is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir, same is happening in England. I think Duke Salman is residing in England and he know about it. We unfortunately we didn't take serious this pandemic according to the WHO, but well, the humanity is surviving.
अब
ठीक है, ओके
क्या करते हैं?
ठीक है ओके,
करे सब कंप्लीट तो
शुक्र है कि मेरा प्रोडक्शन जरूर करिए क्योंकि बहुत से लोग हैं जो पेन की वजह से आ रहे हैं।
जनाब मलिक साहब, हम शुरू करते हैं। एम्बेसडर साहब, ड्यूक साहब एंड सहर, we are going to start, and Shani Ahmed Saab is there. I'm going to start now and people will join us after.
Hello.
Hello Shani, how are you?
Hi, hello, how are you? Hope you're all right.
I'm good. Just I'm going to start now. Thank you for having you here.
Yes,
so
thank you very much.
And welcome to all of you to today's webinar on the half widows, a unique phenomenon in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Today, this webinar is being organized by Kashmir Institute of International Relations in collaboration with World Muslim Congress. I am highly indebted to World Muslim Congress for collaborating with this. Madam Shamim Shal, who is the permanent representative of the International Muslim Women's Union. I'm thankful to her. Professor Shugufta Ashraf, who has coordinated with all of you, getting you here, inviting you to this webinar, and many thanks to all of you for joining us in today's webinar. As you all of know, you are the stalwarts of the advocacy at international level. You know that the people of Kashmir have been struggling for their right to self-determination for last 73 years on, and from 89 onwards, you have seen a new phenomenon in Indian occupied Kashmir, the enforced disappearances, custodial killings, arbitrary detentions, rape being used as a weapon of war, so on and so forth. The list of human rights violations is so long, it's very difficult to count them in this short span of time. As today we are discussing this half-widows phenomenon in occupied Kashmir during 90s, when the resistance against, the new resistance against the Indian occupation started in Kashmir. The Indian forces took people, abducted them in their custody, and thereafter their whereabouts are not known. And according to the reports of the Association of Parents of Disappeared Persons and many other human rights organizations, over 8,000 people disappeared while in custody. And some of them who are married, the estimated number is over 2,700 who are married, and their widows are still in search of their husbands, and they have assumed the title of half widows. The problems they are facing, we'll be discussing those problems, as all of you are very much familiar with that, and you have worked on that at international level. I'm very honored to have Our panelists, we will be joined shortly by former MEP Julie Ward from UK. I'm thankful to Ambassador Malik, who is there, a great warrior and an advocate of the rights of the oppressed people around the globe, especially the people of Kashmir. Ambassador Dr. Mohammed Shahid Amin Khan, who has worked extensively on the human rights and especially for Kashmir also. Duke Salman Ilyas Khan, a very good friend of ours. He's always there whenever we call him. He is in South Africa. He has engaged lots of people in South Africa for the rights of the people of Kashmir and has been a great advocate for them. We're honored to have Shani Hamid. I will give a detailed address of yours when I give you the floor of all of you. Shani is also a senior advisor at political strategist, peace and political activist at international level. She's actually from Turkey, but also has an citizenship of UK. And lastly, but not least, I have today Seher Shah, Miss Seher Shah, our young daughter from Kashmir, the daughter of prisoner of conscience Shabir Ahmed Shah, who has been incarcerated by the Indian authorities. And I think he's the one in the entire world who has spent most of the time in the prison. And she's daughter of Shabir Ahmed Shah. And I will give floor to Seher Shah. She's in UK. She's pursuing her bachelor's degree over there. I will give floor to Seher to get the first-hand information of what is the status of her father in the prison and the situation in Kashmir at large. Ms. Seher, you have the floor.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, sir, let me correct you. I'm right now in Kashmir.
Are you in Kashmir? That's great.
Yeah, and I have no passport. I'm not given any passport. So today I'm here to talk about my father, Shabir Ahmed Shah, who has spent 33 years of his life in imprisonment and is still lodged at Tihar Jail, New Delhi since last 4 years. Throughout his life, he has been subjected to brutal tortures, and not him, but other people too have faced a lot of problems. But right now, frankly, I find it really bizarre and very disturbing that the way he's being treated in the hard jail. His condition is not good at all. And you might have heard yesterday, suddenly they summoned my mother. And because of harassment, just because they wanted to harass us. And I just don't understand. See, my father, he has spent whole life to a cause. He has given his life to a cause. So how can they treat him so badly? And he is so unwell, and we have no idea how is he, what is he doing, what his whereabouts, we don't know anything about him. So today I'm here to tell you about many things that, see, he's not a criminal. He's a political prisoner. He has just given his life for this very cause. So I just want to tell you people that you need to pray for him. And also I need you people to just raise your voice against a person who has given his life towards a much cherished goal. And it is a very cherished cause. So I just want you people to just raise your voice, help us, not only me, other Kashmiri people. Nobody knows where are their fathers, sons. Yes, even daughters. The daughters are being kidnapped, they are being raped, sons are being taken. You just don't know what is wrong here. And nobody can dare to speak, because the one who speaks is taken, there are raids in their houses, and they are being taken to some interrogation centers, and they are not able to speak. Nobody can speak here. The one who will speak is going to interrogation centers, and their parents are suffering. They have no idea where their sons are, where their husbands are, where their fathers are. They have no idea about that. And my mother, being a government official, she has been working but she has been working incredibly, very properly, because due to this COVID problem, she used to stay there till night to attend the patients. She has just given her life towards her profession. So they started accusing her now. And I am alone at home. My sister is pursuing law in UK. So now they have planned to arrest my mother too. What do they want from us? I just don't understand what do they want from us. And also, I would like to tell you that there has been a lot of violence, and the political prisoners are being, not only my father but other people who are in Tehran right now, are being treated very badly. The situation in Kashmir, the schools are closed, online classes have been started, but how can the children join the online classes when there is no internet? They say 2G internet, it doesn't work. So apart from all this, I just want to tell you people that my father, honestly, let me tell you, he's still as brave as he was before the Kashmir cause, The Kashmir cause, for the Kashmir cause, I'm sorry, I'm just murmuring a bit. Despite of innumerable and continuous miseries brought to him, he remained steadfast, strong, and brave, and unshakable in his commitment towards this very cause. They are trying to break him. They are trying to harass him by doing this. Maybe they are giving him some offers, and he's rejecting them. And that's why they are trying to pressurize him by harassing us. They have taken our personal laptops, my personal tab. It has all my videos. NIA people know that we have nothing to do with that. What are they doing with my personal stuff? Why are they taking my childhood albums? For what? For what did they take my childhood albums? For what did they accuse my mother after 4 years now, since my father is in imprisonment? It is just, I just can't tell you. I am myself suffering from many mental health issues because of the harassment. I'm suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. That's why maybe you might find me murmuring right now. But it is really very sad, and I just don't know. Nobody can speak. Especially since 5th of August, nobody can dare to speak. And if one dares to speak, see, he's in prison. Not normal people, normal journalists. On Twitter, the accounts have been put down. My account has been put down 2 times in India. I just post things related to my father because I'm concerned. And I'm proud of him, what he's doing. And his resolve remains as strong as it was 50 years back when he started this movement. So that's it for today, I guess. So it's
Thank you, Sahar.
yes.
I was told that that's your sister. She is in UK. I know that how you are feeling about the pressures in Kashmir at this time, but you proved to be the brave daughter of a brave father. You took the floor from Kashmir and you gave us a first-hand account of what is happening in Kashmir. We can understand all that. I welcome Margaret, Barrister Margaret Hovan. She has joined us. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. So as Duke Salman has to leave us and he has to pray. And
can you hear me, Professor?
We do. I do hear you.
Well, I'm really grateful and honored that you've invited me to speak on this very, very important panel.
I'll give you floor, Margaret, later on.
Introduce myself.
Margaret,
Shall I?
Margaret, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I will give you floor later on to speak. First of all, I have Duke Salman alias Khan from South Africa, as he has to go to offer Friday prayers there. It's time their Friday prayers in South Africa. Duke Salman, you have the floor, sir. Duke Salman, do you hear me?
Now, do you want me to speak now?
Duke Salman? Hello?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You start, please.
All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Fasabbih bismi rabbikal a'la allazi, fasabbih bismi rabbikal a'la allazi, fasabbih bismi rabbikal a'la allazi. All the praises to the Lord, to the beautiful Lord, the creator, the nourisher and protector of the whatever between the heaven and the earth, and all the durud salam go to his beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Distinguished guest, program director Mr. Wani, Your Excellency Malik Adam, Ambassador Adam, Ambassador Shahid Amin Khan, diplomats, academia, distinguished guest, brother and sister, comrade in the arm, I greet you with a greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu from the beautiful and sunny South Africa. And also a special welcome to my dear daughter and a small sister and a Mujahide Islam. Sheher, you're not alone. We are with you. We are with you. Even I am from South Africa. My physical presence is here, but my spirit lives in Srinagar. So do not say that you feel lonely. We are with you from around the world. I would like to express my gratitude to the KIR, the Kashmir Institute of International Relations, which I have a long-standing relationship. IMWU. Of course, the Professor Shagufta, who have invited me especially to speak. What a topical and typical subject that you have picked up. The half-widow and the half-wives. It is a webinar which is a very topical, I would say. As how we celebrate the feminism and the gender equalities in the Western world and around the world, but so dramatically mourning the ashes of our sister and mothers' dignities in Indian occupied Kashmir, which is go completely unnoticed. How amazing it is to listen to the notion of GBV, the gender-based violence, the GKV, the gender violence in Kashmir, the Black Lives Matter, the war on terrorism, MDG, the Millennium Development Goal, and of course the gender equality around the world, and of course the equality and poverty and so on notion. The question is we need to ask ourselves, who is setting up the narratives and who is driving the narrative? And that is a question that we all need to ask ourselves. And how it is going to be a business as usual in context of Kashmir, that our brother, sisters have been completely locked down for the last 73 years and a double lockdown for the last 10 months. And the civilized world, it is a of capitalist anarchy, where the might is right. And the might is right is the rule of the day. Unfortunately, we live in the time of Islamophobia world. Unfortunately, we live in the morally degenerated world. I say so why? As when the Malana Yusufzai going to the school, getting harassed by the Taliban, she got the Nobel Prize. When my sister in Kashmir, Srinagar got harassed by the Indian army going to the school for the education, she too raised the voice, but they get raped. And often their bodies, when they raped, often their bodies are coming back to the home in a coffins. But there is nobody to raise the voice. When 100 school girls kidnapped by the Boko Haram in Nigeria, Michelle Obama, the first lady of USA, championed their release, and it's become an international issue. But when my 100 women of Koshinpura or in Srinagar get raped, there is nobody to raise the voice from the Western world, from the world around. And so ashamedly, nobody to raise the voice from within the Islamic organization or even from the Muslim world. What it is more dramatically and shameful is that when the last year, on the 5th of August, the Article 370 was revoked, unfortunately, the rulers of the Middle East was awarding the Modi, the main criminal. When the women when the woman in hijab was a danger to the West and the liberation was very important. The woman was in hijab in Afghanistan was a threat to the democracy. Hillary Clinton championed their cause, and the Allied forces turned Afghanistan into the Stone Ages and ruined them beyond the recognition like Mohenjo-daro. When our 20,000 sisters become half widow, the world remained up, silence, keeping the eyes wide shut, nobody to offer them a support. And that is very, very sad indeed. We do live in a multipolar society. We live in a multipolar world. And India, unfortunately, as a major actor by default, with its mass consumer market of 1.2 billion consumer, the beggars, I would say, the India has now been applying the dual political philosophies. Internally, they apply the realist theory, and externally, they use a new liberalism political economy. As absolute realist, India used the landmass, blocked the water to Pakistan, abused every natural resources in Indian occupied Kashmir. And externally, they use their consumer market. They use their consumer market as for a new liberalism, as a political economy to attract the investment and the leverage at every level, at the supranational level, at the United Nations, at the African Union, at every forum, to use their market and their economic strength and a political economy to make sure they keep the voices of a Kashmiri unheard. And that is very unfortunate. And that's why I said, who is writing and who is drafting the narrative and who is driving the narrative? The Black Lives Matter. One George Floyd, rightly so, was killed brutally by a white supremacist, a white police officer. But my brother and sister get killed on a daily basis in a most brutal way. Yesterday or 2 days ago, there is a young boy was killed in a most brutal way, tortured, maimed, and killed. But nobody raised a white. Is not the Kashmiris' lives are matter too? Yes, it should be. And it is an international crisis. I would say a silent genocide is in making. So where we move from here to the next step? 73 years of our strategies, our work, our activism have not produced any impactful, I would say, a meaningful impact onto the Kashmir liberation. What was happening 73 years is still happening. In 1989, what was the uprising, the Dul Nakba and popular uprising? Until today, we have our dear brother Shabir Shah behind the jail. The family is suffering. Our leaders are behind the jail. The youth have been abducted for the last, I would say, until now. Lord Nazir has mentioned on a UK one of the television channel, over 13,000 youth have been abducted and taken to the place which nobody knows about it. But there is no hoo-ha. No Amnesty International is not bringing the international condemnation. So does the Human Rights Watch is not taking India by the horns. So does the OIC keeping it quiet. So where do we go forward? The top-down strategy for the last 70 years applied by our dear brother Pakistan have not worked. Our academics sitting and our activists sitting in Washington and in Brussels, in Islamabad, we have tried from the top-down strategies, from the diplomatic channels in the United Nations to the OIC, has produced no result. So I think this is the time that we need to reflect and see where we went wrong. And I think we need to change the strategy. And this is the time that we should look at bottom-up strategy. What is a bottom-up strategy? Is people-to-people alliance, people-to-people solidarity, and international mass mobilization. That's what we need to do. And that's the only way we need to organize ourselves. Let me just turn toward my Kashmiri brother and sister that we need to do the brute introspection, our self-reflection, and find out how do we go wrong for the last 73 years that we have no liberation. We have not find our ways that everybody internationally know about our cause. We are completely fragmented. We don't have the unity. We have so many fragmentations. The people of Kashmir at the ground are doing what they can do the best. My question to the diaspora community and the people, free people of Kashmir is, and the free people of the world is, are we doing a matching job? Are we doing a equal, what Are we paying back to the Kashmiri sacrifices of the brother and sister? Those are dying on a daily basis. The woman has been raped. The kids has been taken away from their mothers. Are we doing the justification to their sacrifices? No, we're not. Why? Because we're not united. We don't have a vision. Everybody's pulling their cart. Everybody have a photographic session. What we have is one thing, is we are very good is forming the NGOs across every corner, whether it is in London and UK and across the world, but we're not united behind the cause. We have the egos bigger than the cause, and we need to break that. We need to break that momentum. We need to say enough is enough. We need to shed the bark, the old bark. We need to bring the new leadership. We need to change the strategies. We need to unite it. We need to have a one goal. We need to have one slogan. We need to have a one leader, one vision, one flag. And the only thing that we need to demand to the world, like the ANC Nelson Mandela say, give the right of the vote, rest will be taken care. And it happened. Why not we go say, Azadi is our destiny. Azadi, that's what we fight for. Give us a right of self-determination. Rest will be the history. Now, just going back to the point that in this doom and gloom, what can we do? What can we do, and how do we organize ourselves that we can create a meaningful impact to the Kashmir cause and transit a struggle, 73-year-old Kashmir struggle, to the true global movement, the true Kashmir freedom movement internationally? That's what we need to move toward. We can't continue to rely on the sacrifices of the people. They have done enough sacrifices. So I suggest 4 things that we need to do. We need to be united, first of all. That's very important. That's the internal affairs of the Kashmiri people. And then we need to have the international mass mobilization. Every corner and every street and every country, there should be a Kashmir global movement, and Kashmir liberation movement slogan must be raised from every town, every street in Europe, Africa, Honolulu, Antarctica. Then we need to have the digital warfare, because now we have a parallel media. 5 years ago, we never able to raise the voice. We never able to get into the mainstream media. Today, we can fight our war, fight our liberation through the social media. So we need to be at the forefront, because on the social media, we should keep the sun of a Kashmir liberation 24 hours a day. So if the brother Nabi Fai is going to be getting to the bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, Salman Khan must be waking up 6 o'clock in the morning in Kashmir, and when he's going to the bed, somebody must pick up the struggle thing in Australia. So we need to use that. Then very important, hit where is the pain is. India is very vulnerable to their economic strength, and at the moment, for the last 5 years, their economy is contracting. We need to go, because of the international condemnation, we need to bring this notion of boycott India, divorce India, and sanction India, cripple the economy. Exactly the same thing South Africa government wants resources, but when the international community start to refuse to work with South Africa and stop to do the business with South Africa come to this conscious decision that they cannot continue, minority cannot continue to govern the majority, and they handed over the government to the black majority people, and Nelson Mandela become. So never say never. A lot of people say India is such a big economy, it will never let it go to Kashmir. I say never say never. 40 years ago, if you ask anybody in Europe and anywhere in the world that whether South Africa will have a black president, people say you must be joking, you must be drinking something, or you must be on drugs. But it happened. You ask somebody 40 years ago, yes, the Red Empire, the Russian Republic will be disintegrated and reduced to Moscow. This it will never happen, but it did happen. So if I say that India will be crippled, and India will be disintegrated into the 27 small state, and the India will be reduced to the New Delhi, don't say no. And Kashmir will be emerging. Kashmir will be starting point once the Kashmir will be liberated, which inshallah will be liberated. The disintegration of India will happen. But doing so, we all need to be united behind the one cause. And then lastly, the strategy which we need to use, which I used in South Africa, is international litigation. Use the United Nations Forum, Geneva Convention, the Rome Statute, and all these things. And I'm very proud to disclose again once more to my dear sister sitting there, my young daughter, Shabisha daughter, that your brother Salman Khan from a small country like South Africa managed to bring the first historical case of a war crime to get arrested Mr. Modi in South Africa? Why not our diaspora community can do that in New York, America, Holland, France, everywhere? We need to use the litigation power internationally. Any woman get raped in Kashmir, we should be able to open a case of the rape in Europe and everywhere else in the world. But before I end, I want to pay the tribute to my young daughter, and I want her to take this message to the people in Kashmir and the sister and brother in Kashmir, that there are people like myself, like Vani Saab, like Amin Saab, Ambassador Malik Saab. We are with you. Don't feel alone. Our souls our body may be in South Africa, but our souls live in Srinagar. And on that basis, I like to pay the tribute to you, and I want you to take this share to the rest of the sister and brother and tell them your brothers like Salman Khan is fighting for you. And I said, "Hey Kashmiri, teri Kashmiriyat ko salam karte hain. Hey Kashmiri, teri Kashmiriyat ko salam karte hain. हम तो उन माओ बहनों की अजमत को सलाम करते हैं जिनके दुपट्टे तले पले बड़े मेरे शोहदा गाजी. हम तो उनकी इज्जत हिम्मत को सलाम करते हैं. ऐ कश्मीरी तेरी कश्मीरियत को सलाम करते हैं. वाखिर दवाना वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन."
Thank you, Duke, for your wonderful presentation. Indeed, unity is the primary requisite for the success, and then one goal, one slogan is a necessary element, and then to use the litigations, the international laws for this, and bring India to the terms and make India accountable. Sahar has a question, but Sahar, you will have later on. Let me take the market, and I may welcome Julie, and then I will welcome Julie Ward, former MEP and a good friend of mine, and also a friend of people of Kashmir and women at large at international level. And I will give now the floor to Barrister Margaret Owen, a great warrior. She has been championing the cause of women, and at the age of 86, she still continues to do it. Margaret, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Actually, I'm 88.
88, okay. I just took two.
I'm really honored and grateful to you for inviting me on this important panel. I came in to listen to you, Sehar Shah, telling us your terrible story, how the realities of life for people like you in Kashmir. Appalling, scandalous, outrageous. The silence of the international community, the paralysis in the UN, the complete refusal of the UK government. We're talking here particularly about the half-widows of Kashmir. Well, there are thousands of widows, but the half-widows, wives of the forcibly disappeared, the missing, their lives are often even more wretched than that of the widows. They have no closure. They're not able to grieve. They can't even bury their loved ones. They can't remarry. They are in legal limbo. They have no rights. They can't access pensions or inheritance or anything. There are thousands of them. And many of these half-widows, as well as the widows, they haven't just been bereaved in actually horror situations. Many of them have been gang raped. Gang raped sometimes in remote villages where nobody even gathers even the information. There's no Indian soldiers are raping Kashmiri women with impunity. Extraordinary India not only seems to condone this unbelievable sexual violence to women, even sort of encourages it, saying that Indian soldiers can violate in this horrible way the bodies of Muslim women. What is extraordinary to me is that there is an international convention, the IPPED, the International Covenant for the Protection of All Peoples who are victims of enforced disappearance. I think only 93 countries have ratified this convention, but very oddly, India has. But what's the point of this convention if there is no accountability from India to actually comply with the articles of that convention? It's written up some very good articles. One of the requirements is that every country that ratifies this convention must keep a full list of all the people who are in detention, in prisons, in detention centers. There's at least the relatives of the missing can go to the authorities and at least find out if their loved ones, their partner, their husband, their son, their father, their brother, and there are women in prison as well. Many women are in prison. Where are they? Are they in prison in Kashmir? Or are they thousands of miles away somewhere in India? We know that lots of people are taken to India to prison. They also have to be, there's a responsibility to identify and dig up those mass graves and find out who the DNA and report back to the people. But we know that when widows, the half-widows of Kashmir, go anywhere near the police or the authorities to try and find out what happened to their husband, who is suddenly either taken from their house, taken from the field when he was working in the field, taken as he was walking down the street. When they try to get information, they face, as Sir Shah has said, threats, harassment, violence. What an extraordinary thing that only 3 Sundays ago, I think it was 3 Sundays ago, but who knows about it in the world? It was the International Day for Missing People. But who knows about that? Why is there such silence like this? Well, I want to tell you a little bit, but I've been working on women's rights for far, far longer. But I never even began to think about widows' rights until I became a widow myself. And a woman from Malawi, Africa, came to see me. And the first thing she said when she stepped into my living room in London was, "You mean your brothers let you stay here and keep all these things?" And that triggered incredible awakening to the fact that widows in many, many countries, in South Asia, in Africa, parts of the Middle East, even in many other countries, even in Latin America, widows and half-widows particularly suffer appalling human rights deprivations, which nobody has ever addressed. It's actually the most neglected issue of all gender and human rights issues. And widows are of all ages. Often people think that widows are old women, but they're not. They can be child widows, young mothers, as well as elderly grandmothers. When I think about what is happening in Kashmir, there are all these widows Many of them are very, very young. They have the sole responsibility for looking after their children, trying to feed them, educate their children, keep their children safe, look after their elderly relatives. Widows have huge responsibilities, incredibly important roles, and it's really unacceptable that widows have been so neglected on the international arena and by governments. We've been going for years to the UN Commission on the Status of Women, trying to get widowhood at least onto agreed conclusions, because everything in the Beijing Platform for Action and in the CEDAW, the Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, is relevant to widows. I'm now talking to the Security Council, begging them to address every month, you know, that non-governmental organizations with ECOSOC status can speak to the president of the Security Council. And this month, I think it's from Niger, well, he's promised that in November or December this year, it'll have to be at 9 Stream, we will have an area meeting for the Security Council on widowhood. And if we can do that, then from Kashmir, we want to have your voices actually at that meeting. You see, the thing is that now in so many countries, it's appalling what is happening in Kashmir. But believe me, Seha Shah, you're not the only country where there are half widows. In many, many countries, the occupying power, the authorities disappear men and rape the women. And women's bodies have even become the battlefield now in so many wars. So we've got many, many half widows. For example, in Sri Lanka, there are many Tamil half widows who don't know, over 40,000 Tamil widows who don't know where their people are. There are over 40,000 missing men in Sri Lanka. Nobody's doing anything about that. Over 86,000 in Colombia. We could go on and on. In all these countries, the numbers of women who don't even know whether they're widows or not. So I am, do you know, I once, years and years ago, I came to your beautiful Kashmir and stayed on a houseboat in Srinagar before all this happened, when it was still much a safer place. I really concerned country that my own UK government, and answering them from actually condemning Modi about what is happening in Kashmir, saying that it's a domestic matter between India and Pakistan. But that has been going on for 30 years. The UN has been asking for India and Pakistan to come together in dialogue, and it's not happening. I think that, before I finish, I think the great strength now is the solidarity among women's organizations all over the world. Our voice, the voice of women's civil society organizations, have to fight back against the shrinking of space for our voices and use every way we can, including the social media, to draw the world's attention. I want to see widowhood, widows and half widows brought to the attention of UN Women. I'm asking UN Women to actually set up a special desk to address the issues of widowhood in so many countries. Because you see, widowhood and half widows, they are a root cause of inequality and poverty across the generations. Widows are not supported, if they're so poor that they can't educate their children, what happens to their children? What happens? How can their children have a decent life? Widowhood is one of the key drivers of early marriage, of taking girls out of school, who then become young child widows because they're often married to much older men. And what's happened to boys, your clever, bright Kashmiri boys, deprived of education? What can they do? How can they have a decent life? So it's also pushing unaccompanied child migration, or pushing children into crime or terrorism because there's nothing else they can do. So it's a root cause of that inequality that actually frustrates other efforts to make peace, because it's poverty and inequality that actually causes conflicts and frustrates efforts for sustainable peace. I just want to say that we have to go on fighting at every level. We're trying to get a UN Human Rights Council resolution on widowhood. We're asking the UN Security Council to appoint a special rapporteur on widowhood in conflict. And we hope that with all our efforts, we will get widowhood prioritized on the international agenda. And I'm so grateful to be invited and to hear you all speak. And please be in touch with me. I also want to tell you about a dossier, WPD, that's my organization, Widows for Peace Through Democracy. We're delivering to the CEDAW, that's the Committee on the Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. We've got an incredible dossier on discrimination against widows. And we're very grateful because in that dossier, we've got contributions from you people in Kashmir about the extreme discrimination. Well, discrimination is a euphemism.
In Kashmir. So I see Ms. Shagufta Ashraf, Professor Shagufta Ashraf on screen. Thank you, Shagufta, for being here. I welcome you. You have been very kind of inviting all the panelists that you are engaged in rounding them up. So very warm welcome to you. Is Ambassador Shahid Sab there? Sorry, गायब हो गए, इसकी क्या हुआ? I'd like to have Ambassador Shahid Saab.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Wani Saab, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I heard the Duke Salman and our dearest daughter, Seher from Kashmir, a daughter of my dearest friend, Shabir Shah, who is suffering the atrocities done by the Indian occupied forces. I heard the my very own dearest Margaret, Barrister Margaret. She has elaborated the phenomena of half widows and widows. Unfortunately, I agree with her that it is a man-Shaoism space, a proper space for the women. For the empowerment of a woman, it is very, very essential for all of us, especially to the men in the world, that we should give a space, gender parity, and to end gender discrimination if we want to address the phenomena of a half widows and a widows which they are suffering from the part of a governments and a part of the organizational structures in the world. I am very glad that my Secretary General is here. He is taking up all the issues into the United Nations, in ECOSOC, and even on the level of African Union, on the level of Organization of Islamic Cooperation, on the level of Arab League, on the level of GCC, we are raising the voice of half widows, and as well as the empowerment of a woman on all segments of life. It is our essential duty, being as a human rights defender, because when we define the human rights, we define the both genders are inhuman. There is no discrimination when we talk about the human or human rights. Secondly, I am very much disappointed by the international community response towards the issue of Kashmir from the last 73 years. We've been raising a voice for the people of Kashmir, those who are suffering from all ends of the negligence of the international community. It is not only that our daughters are suffering over there, our women's sisters are suffering over there. It is that over there, a man, I mean the old ages people, children, boys, other part of the world is facing from the last 73 years, and the world is a silent. I think that I have seen my Secretary General whipping brutally the women of Kashmir, daughters of Kashmir, being gang raped by the Indian security forces. You know, when we are talking about a woman, only women of Kashmir, I admit this fact that in Palestine there is the same incidents happening. In Afghanistan, in Colombia, Brazil, no country left without discrimination with the women and violence, harassment against the women. It is our dilemma for the whole humanity, which we are not addressing. We men are forgetting while sitting on our highest portfolios and highest power barriers that we are also a father of our daughters. We are also a husbands of a women. We are also sons of a mothers. We are also brothers to the sisters. But we are not making such a phenomena where the women can live peacefully, enjoy its independence, freedom, which we needed for ourselves. The dilemma of missing peoples across the world is a huge problem for the international community, for international, intergovernmental, and non-governmental organizations, so on in the Kashmir. Missing people's wives, as we elaborate the half widows, they don't know. I do agree with Duke Salman that we should to be united on all international forums. We should work hand to hand with each other We have to raise the voice of all those who are suffering from the atrocities of many regimes. Look at that the people are demanding democracy in Belarus, and the women are the mostly victim of the regime over there. At this moment, we are just talking the Kashmir issue, Kashmir phenomena. I think more I feel it into my heart. And Ambassador Malik, know that we did our best to raise the voice of a people of Kashmir on every international forum, and we are thankful that these type of a webinar due into the pandemic time is more essential to gather all the people of like-minded to help and raise the voice of a people of Kashmir. I would like to thank you, Shagufta. You are a very dynamic voice for the people of Kashmir, and you are doing a great job. We stand with you. We stand every people of Kashmir. Get it my message, Seher, as like Duke Salman said. We all sitting here are your voice. We are a voice of a people of Kashmir. We are a voice of a daughters of Kashmir. We are a voice of a half widows of Kashmir and widows of Kashmir. We are a voice of young generation of a Kashmir. Are betraying the people of Kashmir. We stand with you. We stand with the peoples of Kashmir, and we will do whatever we have to do in our capacity to advocate the case of a Kashmir on all international forums. We will not let down the people of Kashmir. This is my message to you, to the people of Kashmir, and especially to my brother. You, who is facing the atrocities, Mirwais Sahab. It's my message to the people of Kashmir that we are not betraying the people of Kashmir and their hopes. If we betray the hopes of the people of Kashmir, we will be vanished into the history, and history will laugh on us. If we will not advocating the half widows case and widows case and the women empowerment, we will be vanished like in other civilizations. We are standing with you. This is my message, and thank you, Wani Sahab, your opportunity. And I pay tribute to the international, Institute of Kashmir Institute of International Relations, and Shagufta, that you people are doing a great struggle, and we stand with you whenever you will call us, not only just talking, in a practical manners. We will stand with you. May Allah, may God, may Lord bless the humanity. May Allah give us a strength to stand with the deprived peoples. May Allah give us a power to stand up with our women's. You know, Barrister Margaret, she is an 88 years, but from her voice, she looked like younger than me. And this is what the power, this is what the power of a woman can change the world. Always call the men problem makers, and women, they are the problem solvers. So the world and whole humanity is looking towards the women's, how they can bring the change into our society for our humanity. And we are those men who from the heart and the mind stand with the women for their empowerment and equality, for their rights, and for the rights of a deprived people, those who are suffering in Kashmir, in Palestine, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Yemen, in Brazil, in Colombia, and elsewhere in the world. We are not going to forget the African women. I think Margaret is very much right that the African women look at these estimated missing peoples in Africa. We will be astonished that how regimes making the people missing and nobody knows. A half widow phenomena is going to be addressed on all international forum, and through this august forum of all distinguished guests, I am directing to my Secretary General to hold and organize the event in whether or as a webinar or whether in a personal in person capacity into the New York, and I will be also there to address this issue and to bring the UN Security Council President, UN General Assembly President into that seminar and into that event to table whatever we discuss and whatever we will make the recommendation for this issue. May God bless all of you, and thank you very much for listening me. And I'm here to listen all of you and your recommendation, and I will definitely write it down to send to the all international organization the recommendation of today and this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammad Shaheen Amin Saab. A wonderful contribution from your side, and the hope you gave us that Ambassador Malik will hold a seminar on a webinar on this issue, and then the big dignitaries and the makers and shakers of the world will be invited to that seminar, and we can put our recommendations them, and hopefully we can do that and succeed. These encouraging, I will give floor to Shani, International Government Senior Advisor at political and strategist level and peace and political activist also. Shani is currently working close with the international government, highest levels official key decision makers. Shani's remarkable experience also includes being worked for United Nations Development Program, UNDP, for over 15 years. Shani, you have the floor. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Shani, unmute yourself.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for having me, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to keep my case short thank you very much for your highly invaluable comments and remarks. And dear Seher, I feel for you. I feel for every repressed and vulnerable in Kashmir and around the world. Trust me, I know how does it feel, and I'm with you. Whatever I can do, I'll be there for you to support you. And now I would like to start with a little remark that a few months ago I had brought into attention about issuing an international arrest warrant for Modi and his team. And like so many of experts and colleagues, and we did pursue the case and we are still pursuing, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the difficulties we faced through these tough times about the health matters, the progress is a little slow. And I do indeed see a progress, and I would like to congratulate the politicians, NGOs, and all civilians involved. But that will take time, and hopefully we will see this happening in our lifetime, but let's be realistic, that will take time, and we will need to move step by step and to ensure that we will achieve every possible potential change to secure human rights of the victims and the vulnerables for Kashmiris and everyone around the world indeed. In the meantime, we need to have some practical solutions to get on by for the half widows of Kashmir and every other vulnerable victims around the world. What we can do is, which we're actually already doing, and we do know the solution, but maybe we just need to get a little bit more together and to get more precise and determined towards the solution. And we need to act more swiftly. We need to see and show progress, and we need to really prove that we are doing something. Because of these challenges we face, the time is moving too fast, but we cannot keep the pace at times. So what I would like to suggest is, in the meantime, for a practical solution for half widows of Kashmir and every vulnerable around the world, we can start a national and international solidarity movement for the exchange of goods and services. So since the vulnerable victims are abused and everyone in need requires help and attention and services, and since they are being repressed and facing human rights abuse and every different kind of unfairness, why don't we just get on a bit tighter in securing the chain reaction, and all NGOs and politicians and private businesses and everyone concerned? Why just don't we just push little harder in order to start exchange of goods and services campaign? Let's just do this. Like in olden days, I would give you an example in Turkey, which I used to live for a while. And in Turkey, we used to have Women Gold Day meetings. The ladies who cannot work and who cannot have a social income or capacity to bring some kind of resourceful solutions to their life to get on by, they used to visit that neighbor. If, let's say, if there are 10 neighbors visiting one lady at that time, would used to bring a little money or a gold or food just to support the host. Why don't we just do that? We can just create this group for half widows of Kashmir, and everyone, they can just start to visit each other, support each other with their whatever goods and services available in their own home, and bring it to that host and support that. And the following week, that happens to the other participant's house. So we can start doing that and showing little solidarity to help our neighbors, to help our friends, to help everyone involved and facing human rights abuse. What we can do also, let's say if a lady is a teacher, can provide a support to this group members' children teaching. Since we don't have internet in Kashmir, well, will we stop? No, we shouldn't stop. Will we give up? No, we shouldn't. What we can do, we teach each other. In olden days, let's just go back. Most of us are all old school. So in olden days, did we have internet? No. What we had? Books. We came to these modern times without internet. We came to these modern times without mobile phones. We can still do it. Why do we have to really rely? Okay, it's great to have the pleasure of the modern technology. But okay, if we cannot have it, what we need to do to produce, to survive, to learn, and to move on? We can just get on with it. We can just help each other with our own knowledge and capabilities, teach each other, feed each other. If somebody is doctor, doctor lady or doctor, whoever is involved in Kashmir or in any vulnerable area, just let's put our help others, help children. If somebody is baker, just cook one extra bread and help and give it to our neighbor. Okay, we need to survive during these difficult times. Let's just work on this. Let's just work towards practical solutions while we are working, while the highly respectful politicians and every involved highly respectful side really dearly, sincerely working to provide a swift solution in order to stop Modi and his team for this horrible human rights abuse. And then what we can do? Let's say we can just continue pressing the United Nations, the governments we are working with, the politicians we are working, continue lobbying just until we receive a great, solid answer and until we see a progress. That's, I would suggest that we need to just get on together, press harder and just move on. We want to survive. We want to show that, okay, Modi, you are not bigger than us. You are not bigger than power of rest of the world. You can abuse some very vulnerable human's right. You can abuse the victims. But if we get together, you cannot abuse them anymore. Because if we get together, you will see that we are standing for these victims. We are the victims together. If we allow that to happen to vulnerable, that means that we are the victims too. We are vulnerable too. Because why? Because we cannot raise our voice. We cannot make difference. Since we can make difference, we should just move on. We should show progress. We should help each other in our local neighborhood. We should produce. We should show that we can do this. We can show, and in the meantime, if we couldn't get an arrest warrant for Modi and his team for their human rights abuse, if you couldn't get that arrest warrant from any country, from any institution, well, we people, we ordinary people, we can start a petition, we can start and put our signatures into that petition, and we can just personally go and apply to International Human Rights Court, to ICC, that we can say, we are vulnerable people, we are the crowd, we are the public, we are the human being facing and witnessing an ongoing abuse. We need to stop this. So what I would suggest, again, we just need to, all the NGOs and politicians and institutions and private businesses, with the help of the Kashmir Institute and every highly respectable individual and personality and representative involved in this matter, please, let's just get together. Let's just make a plan. Let's just draft a plan, or just take the existing plan into our hand and enhance it. Let's just make this happen. Yes, we are doing excellent, perfectly well by raising awareness about this difficult situation. But we need to begin to ask what we have achieved today, what progress we have seen, what difference we had made. We need to ask ourselves and what we can do. The great news is we are all very talented, very capable, perfect individuals. What I don't have, the other highly respectable individual will have. What the other highly respectable individual will not have, the other highly respectable individual will have. We can learn from the children, we can learn from the babies, we can learn from the elderly, we can learn from each other, and we can support each other. This is why we are the world. This is why we are united here. This is why we are desperately trying to help everyone who needs help. And I think we can do this. Thank you very much indeed. And I'm here to help and support whatever I can do. Please reach me and I will be there for you. And that's my promise. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Shani, for your wonderful remarks. You have given us some new ideas, and some of the ideas in our own capacity in Kashmir. We have been using these ideas. You know, we have been facing the crackdowns, we have been facing the severe calm downs in Kashmir. But despite all those curfews and calm downs, our society remained alive and is resilient to the all Indian actions, whatever the Modi and his team is trying to do in Kashmir. It's all because of the community, because of the people of Kashmir. They have been in their own capacity supporting these women in their livelihood and all that. But unfortunately, what the problem they face is that the whereabouts of their husbands, because the justice system in India is totally militarized and none of the perpetrators was brought to justice so far, and it carries on. And nowadays we have seen a new phenomenon. Initially during 90s, they would arrest a person and then he would disappear. But now these days we have seen and we have witnessed, and you could remind yourself in the past couple of days, we have seen some custodial killings. People are taken into the custody and they are then killed over there. This has become a new normal in Kashmir. But whatever suggestions you gave, we will reach out to you, and thank you for your support and your solidarity with the people of Kashmir. Now I will call on Ambassador Malik Abid Nadeem Saab. He needs no introduction, as Ambassador Shahid Amin Khan Saab has introduced him as his General Secretary, and we all know he is in New York and he has been doing a wonderful job for the people of Kashmir and all people, oppressed people around the globe, especially for the people of Kashmir. The last year when he, in a conference, when he spoke on this subject, on the very subject of the half widows of Kashmir, that video went viral throughout the world, and world over it was seen. It was highest rated video in those days. And Ambassador Nadeem, for your support to the people of Kashmir and your continued advocacy at United Nations. I think, though at this point of time we don't see any headways, but we have seen that from last few years, the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner has been issuing reports on Kashmir, and also in her current updates to the Council, she raised the concerns about the rights violation in Kashmir. Here I will remind that of this issue of half widows and mass graves in occupied Kashmir. In 2009, European Union Parliament discussed it. Then the Subcommittee of Human Rights in EU Parliament, they discussed it and asked the government of India to investigate and do a forensic of these mass graves so that people can know about the whereabouts of their kith and kin. But unfortunately, at that point, government of India said, we don't have that much of capacity. Though the UN, EU Human Rights Committee also said that we will give you the financial as well as the technical support, and so did the ICRC. They also came forward and they said we will provide the technical support. But it has been the government of India's policy always to negate each and everything, to deny each and everything, and they are doing so far the same thing, and they think they can muzzle down the Kashmiri's freedom struggle. But you know, the people of Kashmir are resilient. They resist to exist, and they will continue. And with all your support, we will continue to resist. And I will now give floor to Ambassador Malik Abid Nadeem Saab. You have the floor, sir.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. All praises to Lord. I'm grateful and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all his mercies, blessings, and bounties. I'm also grateful to Kashmir Institute of International Relations and International Muslim Women Union for conducting this beautiful conversation today webinar and inviting me to be a part of it. I'm really, really honored. Thank you so much, my dear brother Wani Saab and Shagufta Ashraf, for inviting me. Very unfortunate that around the world, there are many countries, many territories where we have disputes between the occupiers and the occupied people. I'm just going to quote Barrister Margaret's 2 words. First of all, she very, very rightly mentioned that women's bodies are the battlefield. Nowhere in the modern history we can see women being used against the peaceful uprising of the locals or indigenous people. Nowhere in the modern history we see more than 10,000 women being raped by the occupiers. No one in the history, modern history, we see that people are picked up and custodial killings are done at such a high level. And I'm sure we all know. I just saw last night a post in the Facebook. It says people in Kashmir, 71,000 people in Kashmir have 1 ventilator. 3,900 Kashmiris have 1 doctor. But one thing where people of Kashmir are very lucky to have a lot is 1 soldier, 1 armed occupying soldier for every 9 people. Nowhere in the history, modern history, this has happened. And if you don't know, Guinness Book of World Records in 2009 declared Kashmir as planet's largest militarized territorial dispute. So, although I don't agree with this territorial dispute thing, it's not about, the dispute is not about the territory, it's about the will of the people of Kashmir. But this is where we have to fight against the occupier, world's most brutal army. Just like we discussed, and all other previous speakers mentioned, that almost 2,700 women are considered to be the half widows. It's not just about having their husbands disappear. It's creating a lot of social, economical, and emotional issues. Those women have a lot of mental health problems. They're going through a lot of stress just because of the social issues. And what are the social issues? They cannot have any financial support. That's the economic and social challenges as well. The government of Kashmir, they offer less than $2 a month for women who don't have their bread earners, the widows. But even for those $2 a month, they need to produce the death certificate of their husbands. With these 2,700 women, they cannot get the death certificates because those people have disappeared. Almost 8,000 people have been disappeared. Where these people have gone? We cannot 100% guarantee that this answer is correct. But in 2009, in Baramulla district, almost 2,700 graves, unnamed mass graves, individual and mass graves were found. If you read New York Times, there are thousands and thousands of graves were found in different parts of Kashmir Valley. So very unfortunately, although the women who lose their husbands, their bread earners, their head of the families, it's a very painful fact, very painful part of life. But if they know that their husbands are dead, they can definitely move on with their life and they can bury those people with their own hands and they can have some peace of mind that yes, those people are shaheed, martyrs. They cannot get married because the people, the women who lost their husbands, they are half widows because they don't have the death certificates. Although in 2013, there was a fatwa given by the religious scholars in Kashmir that after 10 years, after 4 years and 10 days of disappearance of their husbands, they can be declared as widows, so they can remarry. But again, if you know the emotions of a woman, I see more women here on this webinar than the men. When you are committed to a man, your husband, you are not just physically committed, you are emotionally and religiously committed to this man. How can you abandon a person who disappeared for the benefit or the safety and security of his family. So it's a very, very serious issue, and very unfortunate that the civil societies and NGOs around the world, United Nations and all other international organizations, have completely failed to protect the rights and provide the basic necessities to these families, these half widows. So I'm only going to quote an incident. Shamsuddin of Kupwara district just walked out in 1998 to go to mosque and offer his evening prayers, Maghrib prayers. He was disappeared and he never came back. And by the way, most of these people who disappeared have never come back. Their dead bodies have never been delivered to their families. And while talking about the dead bodies, the son of All Parties Hurriyat Conference, one of the finest and the most peaceful person I know, Ashraf Sahrai Saab, his son was killed in May 2020. His dead body was never given to the family, and they buried somewhere in the mountains without even letting the family know where is the dead body. So we are dealing with the most cruel military occupying army in the world. So what we can do about this? The recommendation I'm going to say that whenever we talk about Kashmir issue, whenever we talk about the occupation, whenever we talk about any kind of issues of the occupying territories, we must always include the half widows. Very unfortunate, we have dozens of organizations and dozens of Kashmiri organizations and hundreds of other NGOs around the world who talk about the occupation of Kashmir by Indian Army, but none of them talk about the half widows. None of them talk about the basic necessities of those families and those women. So I would suggest that every discussion we have, every conference we attend, we must talk about half widows. And not just the half widows, we must also talk about the prisoners. Recently, I had another webinar where we had ambassadors of many countries, and they asked me about the prisoners. So I told them one very brief incident. In 2013, I was lucky and I was fortunate to visit South Africa and got the chance to meet the great human rights leader, Nelson Mandela. And I spoke about him. I spoke with him about Kashmir and the people in prison. And I specifically talked to him about the great leader of Kashmir, Mr. Shabir Ahmad Shah. And he was very concerned about the condition and the prolonged imprisonment of Shabir Ahmad Shah. Today we have Shabir Ahmad Shah, more than 33 years he has spent in the jail, while Nelson Mandela, who's known around the world as the world's most respected human rights advocate, 47 years in jail. So we have to talk about half widows, and we have to talk about those women who are, thanks God, they're not widows, not half widows, but their families, their husbands are in jail for a prolonged time. Imagine how difficult it must be for Sahar's mother to raise two young girls without the father, without the help of the head of the family. How difficult it is for Mushal Malik to raise her daughter in Islamabad while her husband is in Tihar jail. Yasin Malik does not have the right to attorney, does not have the right to treatment. Sayyid Ali Gilani Saab, at the age of 92, he has been the house arrest for several years. Mir Wais Umar Farooq Saab, the most respected religious leader of Kashmir, he is not allowed to come out and lead the Jummah prayers and other congregation meetings in his mosque. So I think I completely agree with His Excellency Ambassador Shahid Amin Khan Saab. We have to host and conduct many more meetings, webinars, and we have to strengthen our advocacy on Kashmir on different levels. So, Margaret, with your permission, I'm also going to mention one more thing you said in your beautiful conversation. You said the UK believes that Kashmir is the internal issue of India and Pakistan. You are the expert in the law. When the resolutions, when the United Nations adopt a resolution and both parties, they agree, India and Pakistan, guaranteed by the international community, including the United Kingdom, those resolutions are not just the simple resolutions of United Nations or Security Council. Those are international treaties. So India and Pakistan cannot claim that this is the internal issue between India and Pakistan. These are international treaties where United Kingdom is also one of the guarantors. So the question you asked on the chat, what can we do? We have to make sure that we speak to all the elected people in UK, Europe, and all over the world, and we are doing it in America, that this is your legal, diplomatic, and moral obligation to resolve this issue, because you people promised us 72 years ago that the right to self-determination will be given to people of Kashmir. So I think this is the most important thing to make them realize. By the way, being the Kashmiri, probably I was one of the only Kashmiris on August 5th, 2019, who offered prayers of thanking God for this revocation of Article 370 and Article 35A, because as a Kashmiri, I don't want special status. 72 years we had this special status. We don't want special status, and God has blessed us with much more exposure on Kashmir issue after August 5th, 2019, compared to last 73 years. So we have to continue our efforts. And I, on behalf of my organization, International Human Rights Commission, and of course, on behalf of our worthy chairman, Ambassador Shahid Amin Khan Sahab, I make a very and solid commitment to educate people around the world, the elected officials, and even the civil societies about the Kashmir issue, and we'll continue our effort, inshallah, till the last day. Either you throw us all in the Indian Ocean, or you give right to self-determination to people of Kashmir. And inshallah, the day will come soon in our own life that Sahar Shah will be free to travel anywhere she wants on a new Kashmiri passport, Islamic Republic of Kashmir, inshallah. Thank you so much, Wani Saab, once again. And I'm so grateful to you and Shagufta Ashraf for conducting this program. And I'm always here to support your effort. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ambassador. As I can say only thank you to you for your support and for your vocal voice on the international arena for the cause of people of Kashmir, and the way you have articulated your arguments in the best interests of people of Kashmir. They are praiseworthy, and we will continue to ask you more and more to contribute to this in future also. As you mentioned about the that we should keep on talking on the half widows issue, and hopefully we have been doing a lot of reporting on it and a lot of writing on it, and to the United Nations Human Rights Council and to its special procedures and each and everything, what is happening in Kashmir, whatever is, that is being forwarded to the special rapporteurs, to the working group on violence against women, and also to the working group on enforced disappearances on all these aspects. And but unfortunately, as you know, the way the UN systems work, they are toothless, and they are only meant there to have, I always say, an added vocabulary. There's always an added vocabulary over there, but the officials, the governments at large, they only pursue their economic priorities and strategic goals instead of pursuing the human rights, which they had a charter and conventions and all those treaties on that, but they are not pursued on. But we will have to continue our struggle, our fight, and create more and more awareness and about the dangers which are happening in Kashmir to the international community. I think Julie Ward will conclude this session, but before that, I will give floor to Shagufta Ashraf. Shagufta Ashraf, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Vani sir, for giving me the floor. First of all, I'm really, really grateful to all the speakers, including Julie Ward, Barrister Margaret, Shani Hamad, Sahar, Ambassador Malik Abid, Ambassador Shahid Sahab, and all my other friends to join me today. Whenever I request them, I'm really honored and blessed that these people come forward on just my one call or one message. As I couldn't invite Barrister Margaret today because it was decided between me and Julie to, connect with Barrister Margaret. And at the 11th hour, when I asked that she's joining, on just one simple message of Julie, Barrister Margaret joined us. So I'm really, really thankful to you all. And today, the conversation, what happened is a series of our conversations and webinars, either physically at HRC Geneva or around the world, or through webinar during this pandemic. We have been into this network since long and, years and years. I mean, I am for junior to all these veterans who have been advocating the issue of Kashmir, and particularly the women human rights defenders sitting over here have been doing since long. So as I will not go into the details about the phenomenon of half widows and widows issues, because this is what very much familiar, and people around the world who respect and promote and protect the human rights, and especially the rights of the women, are very much on it, and they have been doing a lot in this area. So the phenomenon is very much clear. This is the unique phenomenon of half widows, what the Kashmiri people have been observing since long. So the understanding is complete on the subject, what actually it is and what are the drastic impact and effect of this phenomenon on the lives of not only the women, but the entire social fabric of the society. Everybody has linked how it create impact on others, so I will not go into the detail. The very important and the issue which we need to keep intact and we have to enhance, like Shani said, is how we have to take this issue and we have to move on at the international fora. People around the world are very much familiar, and they have understood what the Modi hatred policy in not only in Indian occupied Kashmir, but in India going on. The hatred policy of Modi is, is not a hidden truth. So the issue is how we have to strategize this thing, that world should listen our voice and they should come forward to help us. The issue here prevails when we say that this is what going on when we deal with the people at the international level, so especially in NGO sector, or of course with to some extent at the diplomatic level. They say that the countries have their political interests. They have their business contracts with us. They don't want to spoil the economy of their country. And because of the good friendship with India and Modi, they are a bit or partial, or you can say half reluctant to come forward to take up this issue. Maybe they will say that, okay, fine, we admit that this is what very bad going on, but when we will say that, can you write a simple letter to the government of India that this is what you are doing wrong, and you have to come up with a concrete type of strict or a strict letter that this is what you are doing, with the evidence, with the reports, with the legal testimonies, like the report 2018 report on Kashmir, and a series of other reports, and the reports from all around the world, which Vani Sab has elaborated well. So when we go there, things stuck there. So Shani gave excellent ideas and advices in this regard. No doubt, we have to develop a network in such a way that we can put a strong pressure on the government of India. Like here in this conversation, 6-7 people are representing maybe half of the world. UK, EU, US, Turkey, and many more. Unfortunately, we couldn't get some more friends who wanted to come over in the webinar, but in that way it will go lengthy. That is why we requested them to be part in the next conversation. Like Marina Zaka is just, she sent me a message that, oh, why you didn't include me? So this is what we have the network. But we have to sit somewhere, like after this webinar, the people who are sitting over here, we should draft all the recommendations and all the steps and procedures, how we would move on, and we should give that message to the government of India, to the respective governments who are sitting over here, the representatives, and come up with some sort of concrete step that this is how we will move on, and we will continue from this point in the next conversation. What happens that we sit together, we talk, even we write to some extent, and then the connection may be little bit disrupted. So we have to come up with full parts. Like people sitting over here should write letter to the politicians. What Shani said rightly, this would be a triangle, that would be a iron triangle, like politicians, business, and civil society. So they come up together to put, kind of impact. So this thing is a little bit what I feel is weakened at our end when we talk about the civil society collaboration. So very rightly, all the panelists said that we show solidarity with the people of Kashmir. But again, as we have witnessed the long curfew in Indian occupied Kashmir for more than a year now. So in this way, again, Shani is right. The days when we didn't have the internet, even then we were doing to some extent. So keeping that thing in view, we should not lose our hope, and we should not give up in that way that we cannot do. To some extent, at least we can write a letter and post by postal address or something to the concerned governments. And of course, these two ladies, Julie Ward and Margaret, and representative, they are no doubt they are working on these lines. They used to raise voice. They used to raise this option to their respective governments, and they, all the time I have been observing that they used to confront with their governments that they should behave and they should do in this particular way. So this is what I see that may cause kind of pressure on government of India. So at a point we may capable of such a position, what Shani said, that Modi can abuse the people of Kashmir but not the entire world. When entire world will stand up for Kashmir, definitely there would be no room for the government of India, and especially Modi, to confront with the whole world. So we have to move towards that direction. So again, what I feel that we need a joint collaborative effort from all around the world on one platform, and we should do together the press conferences on social media, whatever platform we have in hand, we should utilize that to maybe the Seher today is with us. I'm really grateful because I know that how I approached Seher in this particular pandemic time and during curfew. I mean, we were not able to contact and connect with the people over there, and thanks to my friends over there who made it possible for us that today we are able to hear Seher voice, what she wanted to say. A lot of people were there who wanted to say that we also want to come over in this webinar to to tell what is happening with us, the first hand information. Because if I would say, if maybe the person who is sitting in UK say, that would definitely have an impact. But when the people from inside Indian occupied Kashmir, what they are suffering, what kind of abuses, what kind of objectification, what kind of sexual abuse the women of Indian occupied Kashmir are facing and going through, only they can explicitly state before the world. So I'm really grateful to Seher as well. In all our discussion, one thing was missing, what I was hearing throughout, is the sexual abuse and the women objectification. Right after August 5, the sense of fear deepens in Kashmir when Indian politicians stoke misogyny with talk of freedom to marry white-skinned Kashmiri women. A number of politicians affiliated with the ruling BJP made sexist comments towards the women, Kashmiri women. On August 10th, Manmohan Lal, Qatar Chief Minister of Haryana, was quoting and says, some people are now saying that Kashmir is open, brides will be brought from there. But jokes apart, if ratio is improved, then there will be a right balance in society. Earlier in the BJP Vikram Saini, the member of the Legislative Assembly, said that Muslim party workers should rejoice in the new provisions. They can now marry the white-skinned women of Kashmir. And for your little information, I would like to share with you a report about this thing. How to marry Kashmiri women was increasingly Googled after August 5. The way women of Kashmir are eroticized and objectified on the daily basis in Indian occupied Kashmir. The way their bodies are portrayed as vulnerable and they used to create fear and intimidation has heightened the sense of being preyed upon. So this is, I mean, we have the women of Indian occupied Kashmir have experienced a lot of humiliating tactics from the government of India. When it comes, sometimes it came in the form of braid chopping, sometimes it came in the form of this objectification. So, I mean, women of Indian occupied Kashmir is nowadays, you can feel that, you should understand that they are just like a sand, just like a soil. I mean, in Indian occupied Kashmir, the government of India are treating with them that they are just open to them. Their bodies are just open to them. Whatever you want to do, you can do them without any blockade, without any fear. Whosoever wants to do, they can do it with impunity. So my request to you all, that you people are sitting at the places which are really, really influential. And we, on behalf of Indian occupied Kashmir, on women of Indian occupied Kashmir, on behalf of every sister, every mother, every daughter, I request you to support us, to come forward and rescue us, because we feel that it's better to die to face such type of humiliation. It's really painful. I cannot explain the situation, because when you ask to somebody that what happened with you when you were raped, you can understand that how they will be able to explain that. So same is the situation with us, the women of Indian occupied Kashmir. I request you all to be with us, and I'm really grateful as well for having you all with us. Thank you very much, Wani Saab, and thank you again, all the speakers.
Thank you, Shagufta. I would like to thank you again for your coordination with all the panelists and the way you rounded up all those in this webinar, and I hope we will have them in the future also. Julie's sent me a message that MP Afzal Khan wants to speak. I don't know whether he has joined us or not. We have sent him the link. But we'll wait for MP Afzal Khan. Let me give floor to Julie Ward. Julie Ward, a great friend of Kashmir and a great warrior, and every time when we call her, she is there, be it the Geneva, be it Islamabad, be it Brussels, anywhere, she is there for the people of Kashmir, especially for the women.
Excuse me, Vanisa, may I say something?
Yeah.
Mr. Afzal is trying to connect and join us, but he didn't, and he sent a message for us because he's unable to join. So if you want to show that message on the screen, fine. If you want to read that, even fine. Or if you can fix it up so that he may join us is also an option. So whatever you feel is convenient, please go ahead.
You send him the link, the password and the things. So Julie send him the
I have
link
sent.
also.
I have
Okay,
sent. I have sent.
I will fix that. Let the Julie start. If Afzal Khan joins us, I will give him the floor at the end of the discussion because Sahar has to say something. She is very anxious to say something. So let Julie start.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the fact that we're all here together and people are still trying to access the conference shows you that, you know, what an extraordinary group of people we all are. And I want everybody to I want everybody to congratulate themselves as much as each other. Because despite the challenges, we do still come together. We do still come together to share our learning and to try and develop a strategy and to expose the human rights abuses. The word that has been most mentioned this morning, so it's this morning in the UK, has been the word learning and education. And I think that's really, really crucial. I always feel when I come to these conferences and when I've been on the missions that I have been in a position of learning, to learn. And I came into my political office not knowing anything, but I learned a lot. And that is because I opened myself to the learning. And you know, the world is changing, so we haven't got the luxury of thinking we know it all. We have to continue to build our knowledge, and from that to build our movement, to build the solidarity. I want to thank the men who stand with us, because that is absolutely crucial. This seminar has been focused specifically on the phenomena, the appalling phenomena of the Kashmiri half-widows, but we have many men who stand against this violation, and thanks to all of them. And I do believe that wherever we would find women violated and oppressed, that you would continue to stand with those women, regardless of their faith, nationality, ethnicity, gender, identity. And in that respect, I don't want us to forget Indian women, because our quarrel is not with the Indian people, it is with the current government. And we know that many of the poorest people in Indian society, and particularly the women, are also victims of terrible violence. And in fact, it was a rape of an Indian woman that brought me into politics. And rape continues to be a heinous crime in Indian society. They haven't got a grip on it at all. So it's, you know, we should make sure that our solidarity and that our concern, our love, our care also goes out to all the Indian women who are suffering. There are many bonded laborers, and of course it is a caste society, so if you're at the bottom of the pile, you will be particularly vulnerable. it's very nice to speak last, can I say? Sometimes I'm opening the conference, but it's really wonderful to speak at the end and to hear and reflect on the extraordinary things that people have been saying, the truths that they're speaking, you know, and the points that they're making. My great friend, my wonderful sister, Professor Shagufta, just talked about, you know, what do you do if you are up against such oppression? And I want to just recall an interesting conversation I had with Israeli, a member of the Knesset. She's a woman, I think she's still a member. She is from Meretz, which is a left and liberal party, very against the current government in Israel. And when I met with her a few years ago, I was leading a women's delegation to Israel and Palestine, and we said to Tamara, how can you go on when you know that you are in a minority here in the Knesset? You know, you are just a small party, and your position in Israel right now is not the majority position. So how do you go on? And she said, well, you have to keep trying, don't you? You have to keep trying, and maybe you will die trying. And I think that was a very profound thing for her to say. And it's not that we put ourselves in danger as politicians and activists, but it is a recognition that that human rights isn't a kind of, well, we'll do it now and we won't do it tomorrow issue. Human rights is we will do it forever. We will always stand. We will always speak out. It's not part of a pick and mix that maybe we will do it sometimes when it suits us for our careers, or, you know, maybe we will do it when it's easy. We have to also be human rights activists when it's hard. And I have to say, you know, since I became involved in politics in 2013, 2014, human rights has been under attack everywhere. All human rights are under attack everywhere. And it's often from the same people. So the same people would be attacking women's rights, children's rights, LGBT rights. They're attacking trade union rights. They're attacking minority rights. You can see it. It's the same people. And sometimes those same people, when they come to the table to say that they want to support you, you know, you have to look at their past, their history, because they haven't always been your friend. And maybe they're just your friend now because it suits them in a geopolitical context or situation. So be careful. I'm not saying we shouldn't take those opportunities, but you have to look at whether this is real, genuine learning, or whether it is just for somebody's personal or political party aggrandisement. I also noticed that when Professor was speaking, and I'm looking now at her lovely picture, she has the word peace behind her. And peace is what this is all about. This is about people being able to live in peace. But we can't have peace without justice. And so we have to address the issue of justice, and that's historic injustices as much as a just resolution and a just future. When we've been talking about the problems with the international community, I was very active in the European Parliament with a wonderful NGO called UNPO, which stands for Unrepresented Nations and People Organization. And one of the last conferences I did with them was a conference about the UN, and it was called Compromised Space. And it was bringing together, in fact, there were people there from Kashmir, the Kurdish people were there, the Uyghurs were there also, and some other groups, Sri Lankans, in fact. And I was Palestinian, so I was very interested in the fact that all these groups were coming together and had recognized that actually the UN has become this compromised space because it has allowed governments who are the worst the worst perpetrators of human rights abuses to sit on the UN Human Rights Council. And this doesn't bode well when we are trying to bring to the table really serious issues about human rights, both women's human rights issues, but wider human rights. And in that respect, I want to say that I have, it's really important that we do stand with other groups of people, other oppressed groups, and show our solidarity to them when they need it. And I just want to talk a little bit about being in solidarity with the Uyghur people right now, because there's a lot of interest in the Belt and Road project. And of course, that's China's big project, isn't it? But China is one of the worst human rights abusers right now, with the Muslim Uyghur forced labor detention camps. And I think we have to be very careful when we give space to China's expansionist ideas and its projects like Belt and Road, when we are seeing such terrible violations. It is what is happening with the Uyghur people is a genocide. So I just want to make everybody, we can't, we have to always be critical. I suppose that's what I'm saying. We must always be critical when there are human rights abuses. And I attended an APPG on genocide, which is a all-party political group in the British Parliament. Now, I can't attend that as an elected politician, but I could attend it. I was invited to attend it by the Aegis Trust, who have a head office in the UK, but also an office in Rwanda, and began their work because of the Rwandan genocide. And they are they're the office for the APPG. They're managing the APPG, and I've worked very closely with the people from Aegis Trust. And I do need to report to you that Kashmir was mentioned in the very first meeting of this newly formed APPG. So it has not been forgotten about. They had speakers from a few different communities, and they also listed a number of areas, a number of groups of people who are at risk of genocide, and Kashmir was on their list. So we should take some hope that this new APPG has already recognised that this is an issue. One of the co-chairs of this group is the Labour MP for Putney, Fleur Anderson. She worked in the Balkans during the terrible ethnic wars there. She knows how hate speech can lead to genocide. She knows about the way that the state, genocide happens because governments make lists of undesirable people, and because they change the laws to outlaw undesirable people. So I do feel that in a British perspective, with that APPG, there could be a lot more pressure on all the political parties in the UK. I think Afzal is on that group, so I'm sure you have some very strong voices there, and I can be in touch with the Secretariat to make sure that there is a Kashmiri speaker in one of the next events. And maybe, I'm not a lawyer. You had one of the best human rights lawyers speak earlier on in this meeting. That's Margaret, and the work she is doing is phenomenal. We all need to learn from Margaret and support what she's doing. It's incredible, that she's still such an amazing fighter. And I know that she's not very well. And she wouldn't tell you that, but she came to this meeting at very short notice today, and she's here. She's here, and that is phenomenal. just want to thank her on all your behalf for being such a warrior woman for us. But Margaret knows the law. I don't know the law. I was a co-legislator for 5 years, but I never trained in law. But what I have been concerned about is when people speak about respecting the rule of law, when a law is a bad law, should we still respect it? How do we work to change that law? How do we demonstrate and expose that law as a law that will be harmful, certainly in human rights cases? So that was just really a final issue that I wanted to raise, and maybe a question we need to be asking each other. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Julie, for your contribution, your experiences in the different fields of as a legislator, as an activist, and to bringing about to our notes in how the governments and how the NGO sector works. And the praise for Margaret Owen. She is not well and she is there. We salute your good gesture for the people of Kashmir. I may welcome MP Afzal Khan Saab. He is there. Khan Saab, do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone.
Now, please, Khan Saab, go on.
Well, thank you very much. I won't take long. My good friend Julie has just finished. I had the pleasure of working with Julie in the European Parliament. And I'm also pleased that I've been able to join you at such a short notice. All I want to really do is give a message of solidarity. I think, I'm sure a number of your speakers probably covered the subject better than I will. At the heart of it, I think what's happening is the human rights. And here we are trying to celebrate 75 years of UN. And we've got a number of resolutions in relation to Kashmir. And sadly, what we're seeing is total disregard of those resolutions. We've seen the reverse, and that is the atrocity level is actually increasing in Kashmir. So I think we have a responsibility to make sure that we stand in solidarity with the people of Kashmir and to do whatever we can so that the Security Council resolutions are implemented, so there is a plebiscite, so we can then ultimately have peace and prosperity, not only in the occupied Kashmir, but I would say that in the whole of South Asia is being held back. I think when you consider the current situation with the highest military concentration, what we have seen, the development in Ladakh between China and India, and then you have a routinely violation of a line of control between Pakistan and India, then you got 3 nuclear powers. It is a nuclear flashpoint. I think world in that sense cannot remain aloof to this problem. We need to be engaged. And I think that brings me towards then Britain. I'm a member of parliament in Britain, and I've tried to raise this issue a number of times in parliament, and so my other colleagues actually. Sadly, what you get is a standard reply from the British government, and that is this is a bilateral matter between India and Pakistan, which I think is just not acceptable. Number one, it's not accurate. How can it be a bilateral matter between India and Pakistan, where the primary players are Kashmiris, they're not involved? And how is it just India and Pakistan when we see what is happening in Ladakh with China? So clearly there are issues here, and the government actually need to accept the ground reality with what is happening and what are the facts. And therefore keep hiding behind this idea of Shimla agreement, whatever the merits of that is, because personally I think that is dead in water with what has happened with 370 and 35A. So I think we need to up our game in Britain. We've got a very good, strong, active APPG on Kashmir, where we are regularly meeting and highlighting this issue. I'm pretty confident very soon It's only because of COVID-19 that we've not been able to have a debate. But I think those rules are being relaxed. So hopefully once we have the whole functioning of parliament in place, then we will have having a debate in the chambers on Kashmir. That will be helpful. I mean, that's an area of work which I think we need to do. The second area of work I think we need to do is we need to be building alliances. So there are different groups within India who we should be reaching out to. And equally, I think we need to make sure that we have a strong relationship and other groups in the globally. And I would in here refer to particularly Palestine. I think Palestine is another issue which goes back same sort of period as Kashmir, but they also have lots of experience which they can share, and there's a lot we can do to support one another. So I suppose that is my sort of key message. I'm sorry that I was late joining you, so I was not able to hear a lot of other excellent speeches that were probably made here. But I hope a few points that I've made have been helpful, and I look forward to working with you. And thank you again to the organizers.
Thank you, MP Abdul Khan, for your intervention. And we know you have been working on Kashmir, be it the European Parliament earlier, now in the UK Parliament, and your voice counts, and so does the voice of other parliamentarians and APBG in the British Parliament. And we value your contributions at all levels, and it's all because of you that we are being heard in the Parliament. And as you said, but unfortunately so far, the standard replies from the governments and standard replies from the UN officials is that that the India and Pakistan talk. We are encouraging them to talk together, but we have seen for last 73 years what the talks have done and what is the outcome of those talks. The outcome of these talks is more conflicts and more conflicts and more conflicts and more sufferings of the people, not only in Kashmir, but also elsewhere. And now, as you rightly said, that now China has become an active partner in this dispute. Now the three nuclear states here, it is now a more dangerous place and more, already it was a nuclear flashpoint. Now it has become a more serious threat to the international peace and security. So the world powers who want peace, who preach peace at every platform, they should not forget that peace cannot be built in the vacuum unless and until we resolve the conflicts which are the main source of violence, and the rights of the people ought to be given to them, which were promised to them by the UN Security Council and also by the concerned parties. So I think if Sahar has something to say, Sahar, you wanted to say something, you have the floor again, then I'll ask other panelists for the last word.
Hello everyone once again. I just wanted you people to know that my father, spending 33 years in imprisonment, has exhibited the qualities like he's very patient and gentle. So he has been subjected to brutal tortures all in the most notorious interrogation centers all over India. So I just wanted you people to know that when just small experience, I'll tell you that when I go to meet my father in Tihar, the police, the way they check, they just pull your hair, pull your scarf, and they just frisk your body, and it's so uncomfortable, and it's so mentally, I just get mentally drained whenever I go to meet him. And when all the things are done, I'm not able to even see him properly, not even his shadow, and I can't hear his voice because he's behind the walls. And there is a small window that too is soundproof and has grills over it, and it's blurred, and I can't see my father. I can see shadow, and I have to hear his voice through that microphone, and that too doesn't work. And suddenly the policemen come and say that, oh, okay, come on now, your time is over. And we don't even know where is my dad? Is it him? Is it his shadow? And then he has to just bang on that window, and then I come to know that it is him, because I'm really close to him, attached to him. I tried writing letters to him, but instead he wrote one letter to me, small letter, and that was literally impossible to get to me. He had written that you are my brave daughter, you are very brave, and I'm proud of you, and I hope you will remain as strong as you are. So I just wanted you people to know this. It's just, and my father, he says that I prefer death to slavery. The voice of my conscience is clear. Even after asking, even after putting so many cases on him, there were no case at all. Without any case, he was asked that in the Tada court, that why are you doing this? He said, if fighting for freedom is a crime, then I will commit this crime again and again. I won't stop doing this. If asking for freedom is a crime, if speaking is crime, is fighting for people a crime, I am ready to repeat this crime again and again. That's all I had to say. And thank you so much, everyone, for giving me your support.
Thank you, sir. This was the one of the incidents of a high-profile leader of Kashmir who has been designated as prisoner of conscience by the Amnesty International, what his family is going through. And you can yourself understand the others who are in Tihar jail, in other jails, what they are facing, like Masrat Alam Bhatt, what he is facing, Naeem Ahmad Khan, what he is facing, the way Asya Indrabi and others who are in different jails. And after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, the 13,000 people who were rounded up, and among them were the most the Javelins. What has happened to them? What has happened to their families? Because they were taken to the different jails in the India, and families had to suffer on one hand to find out them, and on the other hand, the economic losses to go to those places, and then to face the same, as Sahib said, that after spending so much of money to go to see their loved ones, then they are only allowed for a few minutes, and that too, their shadow and their voice comes out, they can't see them. And during this period, we have seen 2 people who died in those prisons due to the torture, and they were declared as they had the cardiac arrest in those prisons. This is all happening in Kashmir, but the struggle goes on, and your contributions will matter in future in highlighting the Kashmir issue and bringing the perpetrators to justice. And we will see soon. If anybody has anything to add to it, the floor is open. You may. Ambassador Malik Saab first. Then the President, first General Secretary. Unmute yourself, sir. You are muted.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum once again. First of all, I thank you again, once again, for doing this wonderful program. I want to request all the participants, whenever we talk about Kashmir, whenever we talk about other atrocities, we must not forget the victims of Kunan and Pushpora mass rapes. In 1991, 23rd February, this mass rapes happened in the twin villages of Kunan and Pushpora, and some of those victims have even died waiting for the justice to be served. And many of them, they are still waiting for the justice to be served. There are reports from the Jammu Kashmir High Court, the Chief Justice, which confirmed, even US Department of State confirmed that this mass rapes happened. I think we must raise the voice, because we live in the Western society where even one single rape is way too much. And we are talking about the mass rapes of the whole twin villages of Kunan and Pushpora. So this is my humble request, that we must always include Kunan and Pushpora victims in our conversation wherever we talk about Kashmir. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Ambassador Malik. Ambassador Dr. Mohammad Shahid Amin Khan Saab.
Thank you very much, Mani Saab. I do agree with the MP of that while we are talking about the Kashmir issue, we are talking about the bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. right of self-determination and the freedom of the people of Kashmir. It's not a bilateral issue between the two countries. It is the issue of a freedom and right of self-determination for the people of Kashmir. We should highlight this, and we have to strengthen this issue, because whenever the Western governments or the Western interest peoples want to damage the freedom struggle, which the people of Kashmir is doing from the last 72 years. It's always manipulated by the word between India and Pakistan bilateral issue. No agreement such as Shimla agreement, as MP Abdul said, Shimla agreement and the others, they are not worthy. They are not worthy to mention that the Kashmiri peoples are fighting for the freedom. They are fighting for the right of self-determination, which is guaranteed by the United Kingdom, as Julie Ward has also said. It is guaranteed, not only guaranteed by the United Kingdom. It was the 5P. It is guarantee of the 5P, the international community, and it was a promise which has been broken by the international community itself against the people of Kashmir and the will of the people of Kashmir. So this is my suggestion, that whenever we all talk about the freedom and right of self-determination for the people of Kashmir. It will resolve the issue very quickly then if we will highlight the bilateral issue between the India and Pakistan. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for a great conversation today. And I will be here for all of you whenever you require. I will be standing with all of you, and you great peoples are a warrior of humanity, and you are a blessing of the Lord on humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed Shahid Khan Sahab. As you rightly points out, that it's because of the denial of the right to self-creation, those other human rights violations stem from that. If that is given to the people of Kashmir, I don't see there will be these type of human rights violations, but we should keep on telling to the world that it is because of the broken promises by the international community and India, and that's why these all things are happening on ground, and that too with impunity, whereas there is a convention on impunity, that how to combat the impunity, but when it comes to the powers, when the United Human Rights Council was created in 2006, it was told that there will be a universal periodic review, that the countries will be reviewed periodically of their human rights obligations, but we can see that it proved you scratch my back, I scratch your back. None of the countries has been so far been condemned in that way that they will modify their more separately towards the human rights systems in their respective countries. Instead, they are creating more and more laws to curb the spaces for the civil society, and even in the now in the United Nations Human Rights Council, the space for the civil society is very limited. So the civil society cannot put forward their viewpoint even in the council, Human Rights Council, which is called the Human Rights Council, which is actually for the civil society around the globe to create awareness, but their space is also curtailed over there. Anybody else, if he wants to say something? Anyone else from the panelists? Or Sahar, you're again there.
So I just wanted to tell you that yesterday, as I told you, my mother, she went to office, and suddenly I opened TV and there was news that my mother has been accused of something she doesn't even know, in a fake fabricated case. We don't know. Maybe they will arrest her. We have no idea what to do. And they are just trying to harass us non-stop. They are just trying to break us down. They are just trying to pressurize my father, and they are just trying to break us down. But little they know that we are getting strong day by day, and we will fight for our right. It's a birthright, and we will keep on fighting for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your very brave spirit as you was expressed like your father, that we will not come to. Margaret Owen is there. Barrister Margaret
I'm
Owen.
just so thrilled to have listened to all of you. This is one of the best meetings I've been in months, because they're a lot of very boring Zoom meetings. But every one of you, I mean, this has been the most amazing meeting. And I just want to say that now both you two ambassadors who are the International Human Rights Commission, can we send you our dossier on discrimination against widows? Because we really want to get this out all over the world. Because the terrible thing is about the whole widowhood issue, it's terribly important that we don't see widows exclusively as poor, vulnerable, and needy. No, no, no. Also got to recognize that they have incredibly important economic, social, and political roles in their communities and in their country and in the world. So it's very, very important that we don't see them as passive victims of abuse, but actually recognize and support their roles. Because everything they do is on the whole unrecognized all over the world. It's women who are caring, unpaid. Everything they do, their reproductive roles, they work in the family, they're looking after people, and it's quite unrecognized. So I just want to say, you inspire me, every single one of you, and I want to see in Kashmir, maybe the widows can all come together and the half-widows and become a partner of Widows for Peace and Democracy, so we can bring you in as our partners to speak at the area meeting for the Security Council. This is such an important issue. And although there are many, many half-widows in other countries of the world, it's here in Kashmir that you really put it up as a priority issue. So can I have your permission, venerated and eminent ambassadors, that I ask my consultant to send you the dossier? And because we really do want maximum publicity, because if we don't address widowhood properly within the whole gambit of international law, human rights law, and humanitarian law, we are never going to have a democratic society. My friend, my eminent, wonderful friend, Julie Ward, has also been in Rojava. That's Northeast, the Autonomous Administration of Northeast Syria, which, although it's a Kurdish part of Syria, it's now home to millions of refugees of all ethnicities, all religions. But that model in Rojava is a model for everyone, because through the teachings of Abdullah Öcalan, who spent 20 years in solitary confinement on the island of Imrali, he has shown that you can never have a real democracy unless you have women's equality, gender equality, and women's empowerment absolutely central. So there in Rojava, and also in southeast Turkey, but most of them are all in prison, the mayors and everything, they have this idea of co-chairs of women. Every single institution, body, organization, army, national party, ministries, police, corps must have co-chairs, a man and a woman. And wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if the Security Council, the International Criminal Court, the European Court of Human Rights. Wherever you look, instead of having a man, you always have a man and a woman. And I think it would be a wonderful thing if we could start this off in the cities and at least have co-mayors, a man and a woman, start from the bottom and move it up, because it's unbelievable. There are more women in the world than there are men. When there are conflicts, men and boys are killed, and women and girls are raped and are left as widows. But we're not in decision making. So I also ask the International Commission on Human Rights, and I'd like Julie to come in after me, to actually look at that model. It's a brilliant model, not just for the Middle East, but for all our countries. My own in the UK, what have we got in number 10 Downing Street? A whole lot of spoiled boys. Where are the women? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret. Very energetic, and I think Ambassador Malik can respond.
I do.
Thank you so much, Wani Sab. I don't want to respond to Margaret, but I just saw a question, online question from some anonymous attendee, which says, wherever I speak about Kashmir issue, Indians play the what about card of Kashmiri Pandits. So let me clarify. As a Kashmiri, I strongly believe that Pandits are a part of the beautiful mosaic of the life of Kashmir. So Pandits have all the right to live in Kashmir peacefully, and not just as a Kashmiri, but as a Muslim, it's our belief that we have to protect their rights and their lives and their properties. But this card is being abused very, very much by the Indians, anti-Kashmir or anti-Muslim people. They claim that 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits have forced migrated from Kashmir. This is absolutely wrong. If you look at the last census of Kashmir, the total number of Kashmiri Pandits living in Kashmir is not even 500,000 people. So how in the world 500,000 or 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits were forced to migrate? But when I speak to Kashmir, to my Indian friends, and if they publicly ask me this question, I tell them, if there is one single Pandit or their families who are harmed by Muslims, I stand in solidarity with them as my religious belief and as my Kashmiri belief. They are a part of Kashmir. But if I have the courage to accept this, you also have to show the courage to say that 100,000 innocent civilians killed by Indian army, you must also condemn that. So I suggest whenever there is a Pandit card, you tell them that yes, Kashmiri Pandits are a part of Kashmir's family, Kashmir's life and Kashmir's mosaic. So you also have to condemn the killings of innocent civilians by Indian army and the mass rapes by Indian army of innocent Kashmiri women. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As Margaret wanted to send you the dossier, she wanted if she can send it. I think you will comment on that also. Or Shahid Saab will comment on that. Shahid Saab, you, please.
Thank you, Margaret, for waking up the man for the coexistence formula by side a woman. And senior vice chair, who is always be chaired by the women. This is a coexistence formula we have already introduced for the gender parity. Of course, it should be a demand of every man that where is a man is in power, there should be a woman in power too, side by side. I agree with you, Margaret, and it is the coexistence formula for the humanity which can lead the whole humanity to survive for a longer and better in a better way. This is I as the chairman of the International Human Rights Commission, I assure you that your dossier will be circulated everywhere We will be an organization who will support your initiative and initiative of the all of my participants here. We will do our best. We will do our best with our power, with our resources, that we will stand with the voice of a brilliant women, those who can change the world with prosperity. I think the world has seen in this pandemic the women leadership, whether she is a Jacinda Ardern, whether it's Maureen of Finland, whether the Angela Merkel, and the Czech Republic's Slovak Republic presidents, they are brilliant. And I always said that the men leadership is totally failed to address even a pandemic. So how they can give a way for the survival of gender equality, to end all discrimination happening in the world. So I believe on it that the women should lead with all aspects. Humanity is suffering even in a democratic societies. So I agreed, and my Secretary General, he is a very what I call the advocate of a women empowerment. Uh, we believe that let me just give you one example, that in our homes, even in our homes, the women's lead for everything. In our decision making, they are leading and guiding us in a proper way to make us a good human being. So this is what I always feel, and I always stand for it. And I think our own Julie Wade is going to add some remarks. I'm not taking much time. And again, let us to be focused jointly together for each another, for the survival of humanity, not only for the people of Kashmir, for elsewhere as well. We are a human, and until and unless we are not joining our hands, men and women together, we cannot end the miseries the humanity is facing today. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Shani is going to add something. Unmute yourself. Shani, unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much indeed. And I still would like to remind and press for the ladies in Kashmir, half widows in Kashmir, please unite, please move on together. Just whatever resources you have, just get together. Also gather the evidences, gather every evidence you could about the abuse, about the difficulties you just faced, without putting yourselves or anyone in danger. Just gather those evidences and send it to our highly respectable politicians, every expert that could see your evidence and raise your voice. We can just work on it together. We can just never give up. Let's just don't give up. Just work on it together, unite and move in solidarity. Every day, if we achieve one little step that could make a difference, let's just go for it. In the meantime, we will work together, the institutions, the NGOs, the politicians, the governors. We will work together, and we will make sure that the human rights abuse will stop in Indian occupied Kashmir. Human rights abuse will stop everywhere we can reach. We are bigger than Modi. We are stronger than Modi. We are the world. We can do this. Let's just work together. And I'm waiting for anyone who would like to talk to me to show a progress. I'm happy to put my name in it. I'm happy to put my efforts in it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Julie, for your last words.
Yes, I did notice that there was somebody else on the chat wanted to speak. Do you want to bring them in next, or shall I speak now?
Sahar, do you want to say something? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to speak to Ms. Margaret that I forgot to mention that the armed conflict that has given rise to the category of women that you mentioned, known as half widows. My grandmother was also half widow because my grandfather was killed. We don't know. It was a custodial killing. For many years, for many months, my grandmother didn't know where her husband was. My father didn't know where his dad was. So with nothing, with no reason, he was just he had gone for some walk or something, and the police took him, and they had no idea for months that where is he. And my grandmother, she was so brave, and she managed it all. And then my father, who just at that time he was fighting. At that time he was 14 years old. At that time he was fighting for freedom, and still he was so strong that despite of his father being missing, disappeared, he managed still to fight against all this. So I just wanted to tell you that my grandmother was also a half widow, but then we came to know it was a custodial killing. Thank you so much.
Julie?
Yes, I think that was very important to listen to, because it's a reminder that we need to talk about real things. And when I was a member of the European Parliament, whenever I was speaking in committee and in the plenary, I was very concrete. So I did not talk in abstract notions about things, but made sure that I talked about real things, real people, real places, real events. And often I had been there and I had met these people, and I think it really makes a difference when you speak on a public platform and you have that authority of personal knowledge. So we have to, I think we have to try and widen this circle of people, this circle of activists, and this core of solidarity, if I can call it something, to give more people who are in positions of power the experiences that both Margaret and I have had. I want to say that a number of people have made the connection between women's economic power and their exclusion from economic activity. The world is very ignorant about the true source of wealth, and it's diversity. Diverse societies are the most successful. So when people are excluded, and that's any kind of gender are excluded, actually what we have is a very narrow base for economic activity. And so we need to get some economists on here to talk about this. I think that's quite important. I have accidentally found myself as co-chair of the Urban Economy Forum, and it's a UN Habitat project which has been established around the SDG 11, Sustainable Cities. And I think what's really good is that they recognised that they needed to have a man and a woman co-chair. So I'm co-chairing this international forum about sustainable cities with a man, and we have equal roles in that, and that gives visibility to both men and women in the process. And what Margaret was talking about, co-chairs, is a very empowering, it's a very inspiring program that the HDP opposition Kurdish party use in southern Turkey, in what they call northern Kurdistan, but in Rojava, this region, this canton in northern Syria, where women are the active agents in rebuilding society and are participating in democratic life, right from the grassroots all the way up to the top. And they are rebuilding society, literally. We're talking about cities that were bombed to smithereens by ISIS, where women were made sex slaves, where there are cemeteries, rows upon rows of martyrs. In those places, it is women who are leading. And I think one of the things that we should be doing is using this pandemic time when we've been able to meet many. I mean, I have attended more online conferences about Kashmir than any other issue, and I'm working on lots of different issues. So it's certainly not gone off the agenda. It's very much on the agenda. But I think that we should start thinking now about what we're going to do when the pandemic's over. What should be our first action? Where should we come together? And we should start to plan for that now so that we can hit the ground running with a really amazing campaign, because we've got the connections. We're all talking the same language. You know, it's going to be hard to shift things while the pandemic's here. We know that right-wing governments are using the pandemic as a cover for shutting down civil society. But let's be ready for that moment when it comes, so that we can, we can really up our game and try and make some huge changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Abdul Khan Sahab there?
Oh.
Want to add something?
Sorry, before we finish, I meant to just, sorry, if you don't mind, I just have one more thing which I forgot, and it's important. As a Labour politician, I'm also a member of the Party of European Socialists. And when the meeting was starting this morning, I was passing the information about this conference to all my friends on WhatsApp. I know that many of them have been watching. But one of the people who sent a message of solidarity was Zita Gurmai, who is the chair of PES Women, Party of European Socialist Women. And it's been quite hard to get European politicians on board with the whole Kashmiri issue, and to get them on board with the Kurdish issue, frankly. But at one of our recent PES Women meetings, we made an action to stand and support a Kurdish women's campaign. So I feel that making Zita and PES Women aware of what I'm doing today with you, and her sending that message back while I am speaking to you, means that at the next meeting of PES Women, I can say, right, what are we going to do for Kashmiri women? That will be my demand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is Abdul Khan Sahab there? Hello? I think Abdul Khan Sahab has left. Thank you all for your wonderful contributions. The takeaways from today's webinar were that unity is the first thing which the Kashmiris need at first, and then the unity and bridge building between the communities around the globe, the diaspora, and also the women groups around the globe to be together to highlight the plight of the Kashmiri women and women at large, and also to use all the international forums and mechanisms available to us to highlight this issue, and also to create new structures of awareness around the globe to highlight this issue, and use all available data and whatever we have with its authenticity, not as only propaganda, but with authenticity, all that data to create awareness among the international community about the dispute, and also the political nature of the dispute, which is becoming a threat to the international peace and security. I think I welcome you all. I thank you all for your participation. And on 25th, we will be having another webinar that is on digital apartheid in Jammu and Kashmir. Recently, a report was released by the Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society on that, and we will be discussing that, and we welcome you all on that webinar too, and other people will also join us. Thank you all for your contribution. Thank you for your presence, and especially thanks to from young Sahar Shah, a brave daughter of a brave father, to our highly distinguished, energetic Margaret Owen, the eldest of us on this webinar. Thank you all. God bless you all.
Goodbye. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Assalamualaikum.
Good evening.
I'm from South Africa, Salman Khan.
Thank you very
Salman,
much.
thank you.
Very much,
I
Modi sir.
think
Thank
you
you
have
everyone
Bye.
for joining here.
Thank you very much.
God bless all of you,
We
and God bless.
love you all.
Thank you.
साहब अस्सलाम वालेकुम शगुफ्ता बहुत शुक्रिया
वालेकुम अस्सलाम बहुत शुक्रिया आपका
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our young Dr. Saira Shah is there also to listen us, and she will be speaking in the next webinar also. Thank you, Saira, for joining us. Thank you, sir.